Hello everyone, it's Vicky here today designing for Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm using the Best Day collection, and I wanted to use some of the pieces from these two pieces of paper. So I cut everything out, and I don't use anywhere near everything from them, but I cut them all out, and so I have lots of bits and pieces to use with my collection for when I use it in the future. So I'm picking out the bits that I want to use from it. The squares were whole as they were, and then these little pieces I fussy cut from those sheets so that I could use it. The photo that I have is of my husband, my dad and my niece, and it's reading time, and it's just quite sweet. I think it's a really nice little picture, and it goes really well with all these little sentiments that are there. So I just wanted to use those, and the 1, 2, 3 sort of 1, 2, 3 ABC type thing for reading. So I'm doing a bit more fussy cutting here from those squares that I cut out. These cut apart sheets are so versatile. You can use them as mats, you can use them to fussy cut. Just that's all I've used on these layouts at the moment. I do go ahead later and use a couple of chipboard and puffy stickers, but at the moment all that's on there is things from those two sheets. So I'm going to use this little tag at the bottom, and I punched a little hole in it so that I can put some string in there later. And just thinking about here what I'm going to do. So this is sort of my general layout, and I'm going to distress the edges of my cut apart just to add a little bit of extra texture to this layout. And I think that that really helps just to add something a little extra. Okay, so I'm distressing all of the pieces, including that. That's my title there, The Best Day. I got to the end of this and I figured that I didn't really need another title, so because that worked. So there we go, just rolling up the edges a bit of that tag. And I'm going to get some foam. So as I stick these things down, some of them will be on foam and some won't be. So just to add that extra dimension there, the up and down of the different pieces. And that works quite nicely. I think that just adds lots of dimension and makes the project look really interesting from different angles. Okay, so a bit of foam on this one, and as that's going to overlap, I'm just putting the foam down the centre as the top and bottom are going to overlap the pieces. Just trying to figure out the best layout. It's funny how you move something and it never quite goes back in the same position. So I'm just curling up some edges here. And I'm just adding to the shabby chic type look. There we go, and the flowers are going to go off to the edges like that, and I definitely want these numbers on there. They were sort of almost the inspiration for this photo in the first place. So I'm going to start to stick things down. And I'm just using regular double-sided tape there, my ATG gun. And the good thing about when you have a collection, particularly from Pink Fresh, everything goes together. It's meant to go together, so you don't have to worry about looking through your stash and thinking, oh, what's going to go with this? And that's fun, don't get me wrong, I like doing that too, but this is so lovely because everything in this kit goes together. You can use any part of it and it looks fabulous. So yeah, and you know, Pink Fresh is one of my favourite manufacturers because they just get it right every time. It's so fresh and pretty. So here we go, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to pop up some of the flowers as well that I put down, just so that they're raised off of the page and looking nice and dimensional. And the books as well are going to pop up. I love those little glasses. I think they're really sweet. They work really well for a reading layout. Just figuring out where to put my flowers. And there we go, a bit of foam on the back just to add that texture there. Sorry, not texture, dimension. Confusing myself. And I like to leave the leaves around the edge sort of pretty loose so that so they just sort of move around, and that gives a bit of movement to the layout too. Okay, so far I've just used those pieces of paper that we cut out at the beginning, and I'm going to start to bring in some other things now. Here's some white acrylic paint. All I want to do is add some splatters to the project, just again to give it sort of that shabby look, bit distressed look. Just adds a bit of extra interest, I think, to the layout. That's very simple. As I said, just plain white acrylic paint. And then I let that dry. Actually, first of all, I'm going to mount the photo. So I use some more pieces from that cut apart and just layer them behind the photo. It is amazing what you can do with a cut apart. Really, you should definitely try it. Okay, and I'm distressing the edges of each piece that I add on, just to add some extra dimension there. So there we go, that's how it's going to look. The white is dry, and I realise I've put a little bit too much around my photo, so I just trim a bit off and re-distress so that it fits and doesn't cover up the 1, 2, 3. I'm putting this piece of foam straight onto the page so I know exactly where it's going to go, and then stick the photo over the top, just because other things are raised off the page and I needed to raise the photo too. Here goes my little bit of string here. It's just regular string that I'm using in there. And I'm just going to put it through, and then I'm going to tie it into a bow. I can't usually have a tag on my page without string in. I think it looks a bit strange, but sometimes I do. But in this case and most cases, I put some string in there. There we go, just tidy up the ends. And I love this little sticker that says "Love this." That goes in well there. And that one says "Family photo." Very apt, I think. And there's some more books here which I want to put on just to add to that reading effect. I like this little cluster at the bottom. I think it's coming together quite well. I tried to use the other pair of glasses, but don't quite make those work. Another little floral in there of the puffy stickers. And then this little chipboard flare that says "Home Life." I'm going to put a bit of foam on the back of that so it raises above "Love this," and stick that down just there. Okay. What am I doing next? Okay, so I pull out this stamp set. I want to add a little bit of stamping around the florals, and it's called Lovely Blossoms. And I'm going to add just some little extra detail here. I'm going to use ultimately the Misty Coast, which is the lightest grey, but I do go through all of them, or the 3 lighter ones, just to try them out to see how dark they are, because I want this to be subtle. And I actually thought that the medium light one would be fine, but it was a little bit darker than I wanted. So I ended up ultimately there with the very lightest one. And I'm going to stamp it just underneath some of these bits and pieces here. It's very subtle, and you can see it in the final layout. It may not be quite so clear here. So I do a few of those, and that's just the inner of one of the leaves. These are layerable stamps, but I just use the inner part, and then I use a different one here. This one is slightly different, and again it's an inner part of a leaf. So it just adds that little extra bit of interest around there, which is quite difficult to see on camera, but is definitely there in the final layout. And off camera, I do a few little splatters in that same colour. I just basically water down the ink on a piece of plastic and then use my paintbrush to splatter it. There we go, just finishing up that stamping. And then you'll see the final layout. I think it's coming, I promise. There it is. I hope this does give you some inspiration for cut apart sheets. I know that I love to use them because they're so versatile and you can do so much with them. Please do let me know if you have any questions, but I'll link up all the products I used in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Vicki for Pinkfresh Studio. Bye bye.